Hey everyone, it's Horror Free For All, and I hope you're doing well today. I have here a very unorthodox review, but because it's involved with the franchise that I'm a massive fan of, I thought I'd dedicate an individual review of this. Now, this is actually a pilot episode of a canceled TV show from 2009 called Creepshow Raw. In the episode I'm going to be reviewing, which is the only episode that was ever made for the show, is Insomnia. Now, this little 8-minute short, so to speak, was a part of the planned season 1 of Creepshow Raw that was supposed to come out in 2009 as a web series that would feature 10 original stories to add to the Creepshow franchise just in the digital format. Now, to my knowledge, the same producers who were behind Creepshow 3 and would later be behind the Creepshow television series and the Image Comics run and even the Scholastic 2-book run with Ellie Cooper, they were involved and instrumental in trying to get Creepshow away from films after they made the abomination Creepshow 3, and they wanted to bring it to television. So this was really the first time they tried it, but not really, because it never got brought to TV. It was brought to the internet. This specific episode, the story was written by Jason L. Cooper and Jace Hall and was actually directed by Wilmer Valderrama, who, if you don't know who he is, he used to host a show on MTV called Yo Mama, and he was also a long-standing cast member on That 70s Show, and I think now he's doing more of like a crime show, run on cable TV, so good for him. He has a career and all that, but it was really strange coming across this short here and the history behind it. Honestly, I'm glad that this show didn't last that long, because who knows, if it would have lasted long, maybe Creepshow would be dead now and we wouldn't have got all this amazing content we've gotten now. But nonetheless, I saw information about it because as a lifelong Creepshow fan, I did not know that this segment existed until about a few days ago, surprisingly. And I did all this, information research into it, and I sat down and watched it. And I have to say, from what I gathered, the same people who were behind, I guess, Creepshow 3, at least the production company, they wanted to, I guess, put Creepshow 3 behind them and try their hand at actually trying to make a product that felt like the original 1982 movie. And they've really come far from even this at this point when they were trying it in 2009. But I have to say, I was shocked by how much I loved this little short. I didn't quite think it was amazing or anything, but for an 8-minute short and what they were able to do here, and seeing Wilmer Valderrama actually direct something, I think there was some solid things to be had here. It's kind of missing some ingredients to make it one of like the stories that are synonymous to me as iconic, because Creepshow to me is a franchise that uses schlock in outrageous setups and stories, but interweaves realistic themes and moral lessons into the stories more often than not to kind of add, I guess, some substance to the schlock, which I can really commend, and that's why I've always loved Creepshow and all the stories, basically, even some of the worst ones in the franchise. Not saying all of them do this, but even some of the worst ones, in my opinion, usually have something to say. It's very rare, unless we're getting to Creepshow 3 or some of the Image Comics stories that don't really have much going for them in terms of ideas or whatnot. But this one, if it had those special things and maybe a few more minutes, it possibly could have ranked a lot higher on my official franchise ranking of every story in the franchise. But nonetheless, what's Insomnia about? It's a very short and sweet story about a young boy who has a mother who's actually played by Wendy McClendon Covey, who, if you don't know her, she was in Reno 911. She was in The Goldbergs. You might recognize her as the mother from, I think, Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween. And she's been in a few other things. And I was really shocked to see that she was in this. Well, the little boy's mother has a boyfriend. And apparently she's had this history of, having like, POS boyfriends, fuckers that like to, abuse the son, so to speak. And the son in the situation realizes that his potential stepdad-to-be, sends him to his room and wants to punish him. And the mom tries to step in to avoid her son being abused. But there may have been instances where he hasn't been able to avoid the wrath of his mother's boyfriend. And let's just say the boy's kind of scared of this guy. Well, he insists that there's something in his room, and that's why he's been acting up. And it pertains to his closet, let's just say. And when he's sent up to his room and being punished, he realizes that he's pretty much fucked. He's like, okay, well, the monster's going to come out, and I'm probably going to get harmed, so I need to gear up. And he puts some protective, equipment on as his parents, or as his mom and his mom's boyfriend are, taking a nap in the bed. And he gears up, puts on some like hockey pads or whatever, baseball, catcher pads, and gets a stopwatch, and he's counting down the moments when the monster's going to come. And then, of course, we see the monster come, and he's maybe set up some booby traps to get this thing. And the monster looks very fucking creepy, y'all. And I think they did a pretty good job here on the effects. And essentially, the boy has to deal with the monster in his room, and it causes a big old ruckus, which catches the attention of his mother's boyfriend, which comes to the little boy's room, and we find out what's going to happen with all said characters involved. And then at the very end, there is a Deus Ex Machina type of twist where not everything is as it seemed, and there may have been a little bit of history involved with this certain phenomenon, and I'll just leave it at that. But that, in a nutshell, is really what you're going to expect out of this short little episode here. So, up front, I wasn't expecting much, budget behind this, but given that they were literally just trying to make an 8-minute segment, I think this is by far better made than a lot of YouTube short horror films that I've seen that are like 15 to 20 minutes. And granted, this thing is only 8 minutes, but I was actually impressed with what they were able to pull off here. And Wilder Valderrama, while he has some, Patrick Lussier shaky cam aspects to his directing, I kind of like how gritty this segment felt. It felt really live and in the moment. And I get shaky cam is not for everyone, but there's certain stylistic choices that were done here, I guess, because of budget, and I guess to kind of emphasize this grindhouse-esque nature of Creepshow, which I never really thought about beforehand, but after seeing what Wilder Valderrama brought to the directing of this story, I can totally see Creepshow kind of being considered maybe a relic of a bygone era of exploitation films, and it has that, make quality to it. So yeah, in the atmosphere, it's all told within like an apartment, and it's very small scale because the story's so short. The boy's room looked pretty eclectic. It looked like, something you would see in an average Creepshow segment. The concept felt like something we would probably see in the Image comic series from Creepshow. I don't know about the television show, but the concept itself reminded me a lot of a Tales from the Dark Side episode from back in the 1980s. I think that starred Seth Green, called, I think, Monsters in My Room. That's what this reminded me of. In Insomnia, there is an aspect I didn't touch on in the plot overview all too much, but apparently this monster keeps the boy up at night, and I guess if they had more room, they could have probably used the Insomnia angle as a way to kind of commentate on trauma itself. How the boy, he possibly projects all this trauma onto this monster, and that could have been played up more psychologically in the story if it had, a lot more room to work with. But there's a lot of potential here, just despite the lack of execution. And it made me hopeful that maybe if they did continue this web series, that some of the heart and the grunge that this first segment introduced probably would have been in the other ones. And, you know, I said earlier, I'm kind of glad we never got this show, and I still maintain that. But if they were going to do stuff like this, I would have been on board. And a lot of that has to deal with the love letters that they added here. They had the animated comic panels that were absolutely fucking atrocious and even missing in Creepshow 3. They got rid of the Pulp Fiction angle from Creepshow 3, and they added back in the colorful backdrops when the monsters interact with a person they're going to kill, or there's like a shock reveal scene like the 1982 film. They brought that back, and that style I think is really necessary to capture what Creepshow is, because Creepshow to me is a love letter to 4-color comics from the Atomic Age that use reds and blues and some other colors to insinuate a third dimension within the artwork. And a lot of that, you know, coincided with, you know, at the time when the, you know, EC Comics brands were coming out with those controversial comics that caused the Comics Code of Authority to get made to, you know, put a, you know, hold on what they were able to show kids, right? It brings me back to that love letter that George Romero and Stephen King birthed in that original film. And I was kind of impressed that they included it here. And yeah, there's some solid gore moments, even though there's some off screen. I don't know why some of the stuff's off screen, but there's some solid, like, you know, practical stuff. Like you see some guts, you see, of course, this creature that looks like pure nightmare fuel. I have no idea what it is, and there's a lot of unanswered questions about that, but the way it operates is really cool. When you see the closet scene, if you decide to watch this, that shit was badass. That shit would freak me the fuck out. So, yeah, pretty solid stuff here. But, you know, getting down to pretty much the main criticisms that could be had about something like this, like I said, it's only 8 minutes. And the way it registers to me feels like a lot of the middle-of-the-road Image comic stories from the Creepshow line. I know they're currently on volume 3, but this kind of feels like one of the middling ones from there were adapted to screen. This type of story does not really need a full episode unless you have, like I said, the leg room and the idea to expand on it. Given that it's not there, I just don't see the point of doing something like this. They probably could have done something, I don't know, a bit more basic. But I'll give them this. They did keep it as basic as they could. But that's really the problem in itself. It's just, there's not enough substance with the schlock there to register all that much like Creepshow. I mean, I can see Creepshow well in its veins. It just doesn't register story-wise. And to be honest, the characters are kind of whatever, too. Even though I like Wendy McClendon-Covey in the role, I thought the kid actor did pretty good. I like some of the things they did with him, kind of making him like a broken Kevin McAllister type. You just don't see enough of them. And there's not enough time to really attach to them. You can only, from what you get to see of them, kind of feel bad for them. But then again, there's no weight to it. And yeah, to be honest, the very end of the segment, I think, is probably where it really loses me. There's a twist in the story that you really don't see coming, but when it happens, you're like, why? It doesn't really fit the story, I feel. And that, to me, is pretty incredulous. So, nonetheless, I'd probably give Creepshow Raw Insomnia the only Creepshow Raw segment ever made, and actually written from my knowledge. I think all the other planned 9 episodes were never even put pen to paper or even put into the production phase whatsoever. I'd give Insomnia here maybe like a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, that to me is a decent. This is a pretty decent Creepshow segment. It's nowhere near the bottom 10 of the franchise, and that's getting into like 2 out of 5 territory. But this is pretty much on the higher end of a low decent to me. If it had a little more, it could have been possibly bumped up to a 3.5, maybe even a 3.75, possibly even higher if they were able to really do a solid story with it. But given the potential, I thought for an 8-minute segment, it did a decent enough job and did what it needed to do pretty well. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Creepshow Raw Insomnia. Let me know down in the comment section if you've seen this short segment. Do you love it? Do you hate it? And if you're curious where to watch it, I'll actually provide a link in the description and in the comment section of this video for you to do so. Until next time, take care.